If you really want to know who keeps a place breathing, show up after closing when the elevators sigh and the lights hum like the building is talking to itself. That's when people like me go to work and vanish at the same time. I'm Marcus Reed, Navy jumpsuit. Name, stitched a little crooked mop in one hand, key ring quiet in the other. And yeah, I'm the janitor. Folks pass by at Meridian Nexus Labs without seeing the guy they remember only when the trash is full or the glass is smudged. One Friday night, a camera caught me near the server room with a flash drive in my pocket. Rumors started pinging off the Keurig machine like popcorn. And if you're already picturing me as the guy who steals secrets for rent money, fair, that's how it looked. What you didn't see was Pine. And 8th and Old Roller Rink, we turned into a community tech room. We call The Works a whiteboard that leaves charcoal on your fingers, rows of donated monitors that flicker if you breathe wrong, and a pack of kids who run in, like the room is oxygen, asking if we can build an app for a barber shop, fix a video call to El Paso, make a sorting function fast enough to feel like magic. I was drawing input, process, output with a crusty marker when I felt the hallway get colder. In that way you can't explain, turned, and there she was, black blazer, white, sneakers, hair, pulled back, clean, that notice everything. Jordan. Blake, our new CEO, standing in the doorway of a room that smells like solder and pizza, watching me teach algorithmic efficiency with a pizza box as a prop. We locked eyes, and I could feel my options narrow to the size of a pinhole, so I kept teaching because forward is the only direction I trust when fear shows up. After class, I handed 3 laptops to the little ones' machines I'd pulled from the corporate recycling bin and nursed back to life with zip ties and prayer. One kid hugged his, like it might run away. I stepped into the hall, and Jordan was by the vending machine that eats dollar bills. "Mitch Reed," she said, soft but steady. "It's Blake," I said, pretending my heart wasn't auditioning for a drum line. "Security tells me you've been in restricted areas after your shift," she said, like a doctor asking where it hurts. "If there's an issue with my work, tell me straight." I answered, "I'm deciding what the issue is," she said, glancing at the room. "At Meridian, you coil cables and close drawers. You didn't open here. You teach kids recursion with a board that's seen better decades. Why were you in the server room?" And I told her the truth. I'd been carrying like a hot coin, because the bins at Meridian are full of machines these kids can learn on, because I'd rather ask forgiveness than watch them get written off again. She nodded once, not a verdict, more like a note taken. Then she left without a threat or a promise, and somehow that rattled me more than if she'd yelled. By Tuesday, her assistant called me to the 28th floor, a lobby that looks like money is the local weather. And in Jordan's office, I saw 3 folders open, and her pen stopped like she'd rehearsed, and decided to speak human instead. "You published as MD. Read at Orbis MedTech." She said not a question more, like a door creaking open. I said, tasting old metal. "You built the control layer for their cardio platform. You warned them when the shortcuts began. You sued when they ignored you. You lost your job and got a settlement that couldn't cover daycare," she said. "Like reading a weather report, precise and unavoidable." "These days I try to be useful where I'm needed," I said, holding on to my voice so it wouldn't bolt. She looked past me toward the glass, where a room full of executives argued with their own reflections. "Meridian launches in 3 days. If our integration layer fails in the wild, we're cooked. I've got smart people shouting past each other. Would you take a look?" And I gave the answer that scares you. even when you mean it. I'm a janitor, she waited. That patient stillness. Some leaders mistake for power when it's really respect. And a systems architect who's seen this kind of hubris before, she added. And when someone remembers you at your best, even when you forgot that version of yourself saying no, stops being an option. We walked into the war room together, and the CTO's jaw tightened one notch. Is this necessary? He asked without asking. It is, Jordan said, and she sat me at the head of the table, which tells you a lot about who she is. I traced logs like they were braille, followed stack traces until they resolved into a shape I knew too well. Your integration layer isn't the real culprit, I said, calm. Because the truth doesn't need volume. The allocator leaks under load. You've patched the symptoms, not the hole, so you're bailing water while the boat keeps filling the room. Went Sunday. Quiet, the CTO said they'd shipped 2 versions on this allocator. I told him they'd hardened the wrong edges. Not cruel, just done. Pretending we hadn't all seen this movie. We can't refactor before Friday, he snapped. Then we don't launch Friday, Jordan said, sounding tired for the first time. Unless you can give us a miracle. And she turned to me like asking for water and a time machine. I said, give me repo access. A small team that doesn't mind losing sleep permission to kill 3 sacred cows if I can't stabilize by 2 a.m. You pull the plug. No heroics, no ego. The CTO smirked about credentials, and Jordan typed. My screen blinked. He has access, she said. If he says cut, we cut. We camped in a conference room that smelled like cold coffee and neon 2 seniors who still had curiosity in their eyes. A junior who typed like a pianist, a QA lead who swore like a poet. Every time she proved us wrong at midnight, we hit a dead end and laughed. Not because it was funny, but because laughter is WD-40 for stuck minds. At 1:37 a.m., the first clean run held without bleeding memory at 2:12 a.m. We scaled the load, and the allocator stood its ground like a bridge with a foundation. At last, the CTO slipped in at 3 with his tie off and nodded once, honest and small, at 9 a.m. Jordan told the board we'd launch not because she feared their disappointment, but because the fix was real. Friday afternoon, the product went live and didn't stumble. The stock chart climbed like a kid up a rope, and I showered in the locker room, pulled on a clean jumpsuit, and mopped the atrium, because the floor still needs you, even when someone calls you a miracle. Monday. She called, and all-hands sunlight poured down the staircase like the building blessing itself. She thanked the engineers and the pizza runners. Then she said, "We almost lost because we didn't see someone right in front of us." And she called my name. 500 eyes hit me like heat. I walked up with my heart trying to jailbreak. "This is Marcus," she said. "Some of you know him as the quiet guy who keeps the glass from smudging before that. He built systems that kept people alive and paid for, telling the truth with his career. Last week he gave us a second chance. Then the twist. You don't expect. When your hands still smell like Windex." She offered me a senior architect chair. The room hummed with surprise. I let the moment breathe, then said, felt the confusion roll through the crowd. I belong on Pine and 8th more than I belong on the 28th floor. Consult when you need me, but my job is teaching Jada and the others to believe they're more than the name on a uniform. Jordan's shoulders loosened. Like that answer was something she'd hoped for without admitting it. "Then help me do this right," she said. "Meridian will fund the works. Build 3 more labs, create internships that don't require a cousin on the inside, and I want you to run it as Director of Community Tech Outreach." The clap came before my answer, which felt generous and also like a dare. I said yes, not for a headline, but for Tuesday nights. The months after that moved fast and honest. Meridian folks came to volunteer and got gently checked by 3 church grandmothers. When they tried to run class like a sprint planning meeting, Jordan kept showing up with her son Miles. He and my daughter Naya argued their way into a space weather game that made both of them glow. Some nights, Jordan and I sat on the steps after cleanup, trading stories, divorces that took more than they gave jobs that called themselves families and forgot to be fair, bias that wears expensive shoes in a boardroom and dirty boots at a bus stop. "Why stay invisible so long?" she asked once. "Because you can't hit what you won't see," I said. "But you also can't love it. That's the part I kept dodging, you know what I mean?" And she did. Not everyone cheered a board member with a storm-colored suit. Asked for near-term return. Jordan said the pipeline already changed 17 interns. In sight, 5. Hired Brandlifford, sure, but also the humility to stop confusing cost-cutting with wisdom. A columnist wrote that we were reputation laundering, and yeah, that happened. A kid got stopped 2 blocks from the lab and asked where he got a laptop. That nice. He told the truth and still walked home quiet. Real life doesn't fade out just because the ribbon gets cut. But the lab on the corner where the payday lender used to be is loud with hope. Now the mural says, "People over product" in a thunderstorm of circuit traces. The kids painted a crooked plaque with my name that made a designer flinch and me cry. The CTO leaves sticky notes on Jada's problems. "Try tail recursion, you've got this." And a stranger in the hallway finally says, "Morning, Mr. Reed," like my name tastes good to say. Do I regret turning down the architect chair? Not for a second. Some architectures are made of code. Some are made of trust. The good ones carry both. And that's the hill I'll stand on, even when the wind gets mean. So let me ask you, and I want the comments, honest and loud. Did the company do the right thing, or just the profitable thing? Do second chances get earned or given? Have you ever misjudged someone in a uniform or behind a title and had the truth correct you? In public, tell me what justice looks like, where you live. Tell me who you overlooked and who surprised you. And if this story hit you anywhere near the ribs tap, like so it travels. Subscribe if you want more nights like this, turned into mornings that feel possible, and drop your story below. I'll be there listening.